Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from in the world. Welcome to Open Up, our live talk show. My name's RJ Horner, and I'm the host here of Open Up. I'm also the vice president of Voice of Men 360. I'm also the founder and facilitator of my own community called Live and Love Life. Let me share a brief introduction about Voice of Men 360, International Men's Day, and why this talk show is so important. Voice of Men 360 is a not-for-profit organization founded in 2020 and based in Toronto, Canada. And many men and boys are seeking help and support in areas of their lives. And we want to understand the demands and need support needed when it comes to our boys and men and to step up and help to provide that need. Voice of Men 360 was born out of a tremendous need and stepping up to help provide those services to help support our men and boys to overcome their life challenges. We're part of International Men's Day, and International Men's Day is now serving over 21 countries, has been serving for over 21 years so far, and was represented in 90 countries around the world who joined together doing various activities on a yearly or on a steady basis. IMD follows 6 pillars, which is the overall well-being of boys and men, and we follow in those same footsteps here in Voice of Men 360. So why is Open Up so important? Because we men are not open and willing to share our matters with people. When we keep our emotional or other challenges within ourselves for any period of time, these are bound to create ill health effects. And we want to create an open space to allow individuals to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about the life challenges and the struggles that our men and boys have to overcome. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. With sharing your life journey, we welcome all to participate in our show. Our goal is to make a positive impact on someone's life through this program. Open Up is on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern and Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We bring individuals and each show and let them share their life experiences with you. We'd like to remind you the Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers who do not necessarily represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness to the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We're not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, please seek a medical professional immediately. If you have questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email at info@voiceofmen360.org. So our guest today is Stephen Whitton. And having left school without achieving the required academic qualifications to pursue a career in teaching, Stephen joined the fast-paced and target-driven automotive sector as a car salesperson. 35 years later, carved out a successful career covering many roles within the industry. Stephen's always been drawn back to training and development. He embarked then on a mission. I want to get the global automotive industry talking about mental health issues as an everyday subject and accepting them as contributed to by traditional cultures and addressing them as contributors to the performance we need to survive and thrive. This is a direct quote from Stephen, who is the founder of Menable. And there's where he began the next chapter of his life. So Stephen is here to share his thoughts and emotions following a traditional expected life and the disastrous effects on family when the weight became too much, but also as a way of recognize the extent for the issues of others, a phoenix has arisen and created something positive. Please welcome Stephen Whitton to Open Up. Thank you for joining us and sharing your life journey with us today.
It's a delight to be joining you all the way from a very, very warm, sunny UK.
A warm and sunny UK today. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Again, we're about the life journey here. So you created this Menable, but how did we start that? Where did this journey of Stephen Whitton and Menable begin?
The Menable journey began last summer at the sort of crescendo of a very short period for me, where the world had collapsed for one reason or another. I had some very honest and open conversations with my wife and my family, and my wife in particular was unable to sort of accept, what I was explaining and what I was talking about, and we decided that the time had come for us to part company. That was devastating for me because it wasn't what I wanted, and obviously it was devastating for my family as well. And so a very short period of real despair sort of descended upon me, and I got to a point about midway in the year where I genuinely was having some fairly dark thoughts about it all. And then it dawned on me one day, probably sitting in the garden crying into my hands, where I thought, I know I'm not the only man in particular, or person in the motor industry, in the automotive trade, that suffered with these issues and has put a lid on them. Because as you rightly say, I went into the industry 35 years ago. And because it's a very male dominated industry, the encouragement and the support wasn't there then to talk about mental health in the way that we do today. So I've very much grown up in an environment where it's just not something you've talked about. If you did, it was something that you talked about when you got to crisis level. And probably I, like many others, just went through that long career and in various roles and different jobs, just keeping a lid on it and keeping it to myself and dealing with stuff day to day. And, and I think part of the reason that I did the job that I did, which is all about getting on stage and performing in front of people and being an entertainer and training people and so on, was actually, that was part of the whole kind of self-validation stuff that I needed in an environment and an industry that obviously I knew inside out. So 35 years, a fairly successful career, all of the trappings that come with that. And as I say, about a year ago, or just before a year ago, actually, a bit longer than a year, I mean, the wheels definitely fell off the bus, and everything came crashing to a halt. And
it appears you've come through that okay. Like, you seem like a level-headed. You've come to accept it. You're at a stable place right now, it appears.
I would say so, yeah, because I think I would very much hold out with the thought that to reveal it is to heal it. And when you do that, you very definitely begin to put a kind of energy out into the universe, if you like, that actually then attracts people back to you that want to support you and want to help you. It's not all plain sailing, and it has been really, really tough. And I've gone, how some of my friends have stuck with me through the phone call saying, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? The hour or two on the phone every day, it's been amazing that they've stuck through that. But you're right. I mean, I've now got to a stage where, I've accepted everything. I've forgiven myself, and I've done the thing that they tell you to do on airplanes, which is put your own oxygen mask on before you help someone else with theirs.
Right.
If for anyone who remembers going on an airplane before the pandemic. I've got to a much better place. I wouldn't say I'm completely free of any sort of challenges or issues that come with it.
Right. It's a journey.
It is a journey, yeah. But
Yes.
Menable has been amazing, and what we've created with that, and the people that have got involved and come on board, and the responses that we've had from the industry in the UK, and the way that we've now spread the message around the world, just gives me masses of hope and optimism.
And we'll get back to Menable in a minute, but you mentioned a lot, and thank you for telling us about your life and your journey, your struggle. But you also mentioned that we were raised to, keep it within ourselves and be restrained and not talk about it. But tell us, maybe if you could, back to childhood, what was your relationships like? What were some of the lessons you were taught that maybe led way to these thought processes and led you into this sales career choice?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I often, obviously I loved my parents the same as most people do. But my mum was 17 when I was born. She was already married. My dad wasn't very much older. So I often look back at that and I think, wow, they were really only kids themselves. They were teenagers when I was born. and that was in the late 60s. So that must have been really, really tough and socially very difficult for them at the time as well. They had absolutely no money at all, so they lived with my mum's parents. So I grew up in a house of 5 or 6 adults that, if I could say that the atmosphere wasn't great. It wasn't conducive for a child to be growing up in an atmosphere that was fraught with tension. You know, nobody got on. Everybody hated the sight of each other and would tear chunks out of each other verbally, if not physically, quite often. So for a child to be growing up in that, I think that created a level of sort of, I wouldn't go as far as say trauma, but it was certainly a level of insecurity and anxiety. And what I know now is that when my siblings were born, I had some treatment recently, and I realized that there was a period that subconsciously I didn't realize meant that I began associating lots of things with abandonment and rejection and loneliness. And of course, that's then like the foundation, and that just builds and builds and builds throughout your life
of the person you're becoming.
Yeah, and as a teenager, you know, I mean, I've never been. I think I was slim for about 3 years of my life, but the rest of my life, you know, I've always carried a few extra pounds, not massively, but enough to notice. And I can remember as a teenager, my mum saying to me, you know, girls don't go out with fat boys that wear glasses. And I know now that she was only saying that as a joke, or to try and sort of protect me, or to try and get me to get off the sofa and, you know, go for a run or something. But the reality of it was that really sat with me forever, and meant that I had this sort of, you know, inane kind of insecurity about me, about, you know, that sort of lack of worthiness, lack of self-confidence.
Sure, absolutely.
Which actually doesn't sit well when I tell people that, because they say, well, you know, when I met you, you were on stage in front of 500 people and you had a microphone in your hand and you were the most confident person in the room. And I go, yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's well practiced.
Absolutely. It took a long time to get there. Absolutely. Yeah. It's all a growth journey. And that's what we talk about here. So thank you for that. But okay, your father was a young man as well. What kind of influence did you have between the two of you at that age?
Very little, if I'm honest.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many memories at all of doing anything, you know, sort of father-son related. I mean, he was an avid football or soccer fan. You know, that was his life. I think very quickly sort of rebelled against that and didn't want to do anything involving that sport. And so there was sort of a natural drift apart, if you like. I think also the fact that he was very young, he was under a huge amount of pressure, looking back on it now. And I remember, you know, hearing the stories of how many jobs he had in a very, very short space of time. So there was clearly, I think, something going on for him. I think if we had an individual like that now and I was talking to him, you know, there would be anxieties and issues of, you know, low self-esteem and so on with him, I think, as well.
For sure. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter. We all kind of carry those things. As much as we may try to be that strong man or the man that society expects of us, I think all of us struggle as men to realize that. And it's good of you to recognize that in your father, I suppose, at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had a massive missed opportunity with my father, because we fell out about 13 years ago. We didn't speak, just there was no animosity. We just, you know, life went on and neither of us picked up the phone. And then in the middle of, well, just about 6 weeks into the pandemic last year, and, you know, just after, my wife and I had the sort of serious conversations about not being together anymore, I found out that he'd passed away, and nobody was able to get hold of me and let me know. So, you know, that was the point at which there was like, well, okay, what else is the universe going to throw at me to deal with? You know, and that was, so yeah, I mean, I look back on it now and just say, yeah, life's too short, life's too fragile. Don't let a moment go past and, not deal with things. But I don't have the opportunity to go back over that now. So all I can do is, again, as hopefully it doesn't sound crass, but it would just say, I have to forgive myself and, hope that if there is a heaven, that one day we'll be reunited and we can have that conversation then.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I have a similar situation with my father. Not my story today, but I have a similar situation, so I can understand what you're feeling there. There's always a sense of loss there.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a relationship. You've had some influence from him. I'm sure, like all people, you grew apart. You told us some very sad stories in your journey here. Was that your darkest moment with the divorce, or was there anything else that might have hit that might have been worse? Or, because again, we want to talk about the challenges that men go through.
Yeah, I mean, the darkest moment, if I've got to say, the darkest moment was, and I'm going to blame Facebook and iPhones for this, because literally when you flick your phone on in the morning, the first thing it probably nearly always does is flashes up a reminder of what you were doing a year or 2 years before on this day. And of course, the thing that flashed up immediately that sent me really down a dark place was lots of pictures of my wife and I on some of the very glamorous holidays and trips that we had for business or whatever it might have been. And obviously all of the selfies that everyone takes, they're all very happy and a drink in your hand and big smiles, and it just reminds you of what you were doing that evening or whatever it might have been. And that was the stuff that prompted the real dark thoughts. Was that, I've got to say, I'm not going to be too open about what the causes of the divorce were, but suffice to say it was my fault. And obviously that's something that I've had to learn to live with and grapple with. But then, to be laying in bed one morning and your phone flashes up all these images of happier times, that really did take me down a kind of, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I'm done.
Right. And I mean, that's the intention of it too, is that Facebook, programming is, to inspire you, right? To make you feel good. These were great times you had, but, they don't know that you've gone through all this turmoil in the meantime, right? So that's an unfortunate thing. But when you had those dark moments, you had those dark thoughts. What did you do next? How did you overcome that?
I did two things. I mean, I'd had the dark thoughts before, and I remember literally one dark night, I'm sitting in the car with the engine running, and I'd pulled up in a what we call a lay-by. I don't know what you call them over there, but a sort of part of the road where you can pull up if you need to.
Rest stop or something like that.
Yeah, rest area or whatever, and a very small one. And it just happened to run parallel with a railway track. And I was sitting there, and it was very dark. It was pouring with rain. It was cold, and I was genuinely thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get over that fence or under the fence? And do I leave the keys in the car? Do I take them with me? Do I leave the car as a present to some stranger that turns up and finds it? And at that moment, my friend rang me. I will just throw in that she is very, very spiritual. She's actually a devout Christian. And my friend rang me and she said to me, oh, I have no idea why. She said, but something told me I needed to just ring you. Wow. Wow. I mean, and at that time, I was explaining where I was and what I was doing. And she sort of talked me down, if you like, even though she wasn't there physically. And then later on, when, of course, those dark thoughts came up again a few months later, that's when I then reached out to the doctor, my doctor, and had a chat with her. And she put me on this sort of program to check in with me regularly and put me through obviously in the UK, people will know we have the National Health Service, and it's amazing. It has a very, very good system, but it has its flaws. And one of the flaws that it has is if you need help or counselling, there's typically a wait to get assessed, and then there's another very long wait to actually get in front of somebody.
Yeah. In Canada, we have the similar medical system, and it's the same thing. If you want to get mental health care, you're waiting to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I like this check-in system that you're talking about, because at least it's a way to get your keep having those motivational conversations.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, at the same time, you know, with the type of character I am, I was, you know, sitting in the car by this stage thinking, this isn't going to beat me. I'm not going to get, you know, that I've got too much at stake. This is not going to take me. I'm not going to succumb to that. So I reached out to many friends. I'm very lucky. I've got lots of friends in the sort of coaching, training world, counselors and therapists as well. And I reached out to them, and that's where we then started having conversations saying, you know, we've all come through the automotive industry, and we all know that there are lots of men in particular of a certain age who have kept a lid on stuff, and let's create some kind of support framework for them. So that's what we did. And, you know, that was the birth of Men Able. And it was almost like someone had flicked a switch, and, you know, like the points on a railway track, to use that analogy again, where, you know, one of them leads you down to despair and the other one leads you to hope. You know, they both end up at the same destination, but one of them's going to get you there a lot quicker.
And in better spirits.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the one that I chose, hope, was hope, you know, because I could easily have chosen despair.
Could have.
But yeah, no.
And I think, you know what, I'm not a religious man, but I am intensely spiritual. Mm-hmm. And I do believe in the universe. And I do believe that was the universe calling out and saying, you have more work to do. There's more you're needed for. And I'm glad that phone call came to you and changed that moment for you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being very open and discussing that with us, because that's a moment people don't want to live through again. So you did have to live through it with us again. So I very much applaud you for that and being able to share that with people.
No, thank you. Thank you.
So, and then you created Menable from this. So tell us more about Menable and what it means and why people would benefit from this.
Yeah, well, I mean, we originally, I was very aware that the automotive industry is very male dominated. And I thought, well, I know that there are lots of men like me who won't sit and talk or open up. So the original version was very much Men Able. So if you split those two words up, it was about, you know, making men able to sit and talk about stuff.
Right.
What became very evident very quickly was that there's a reason why the automotive industry is probably male dominated. And that is because men typically have very stereotypical masculine behaviors that women actually find, not all the time, but very often find very difficult to work with and work around. So we don't attract as many women into the industry as we should, and we certainly don't promote and develop as many women that we do attract into the industry as we should. So it became very evident very quickly that actually the issue that we have is not about, if we're enabling men to do anything, it's enabling them to really kind of dial down some of that dysfunctional masculine behavior to make the automotive industry a lot more diverse and a lot more inclusive. And so it became, you know, it happened very quickly that we went from being Men Able to actually Enable. And the M in that case stands for mental health, motor trade, motivation, management. And, you know, I still get people now say, well, Men Able, is that all for men? And we go, no, that's where it started, but it's not just for men. You know, it's across the industry, but actually, if there is a bit that needs to be aimed purely at men, it's about saying, look, you know, some of those dysfunctional behaviors that men employ and adopt, and part of that, they do that because they are themselves keeping a lid on their own mental health issues. Some of those behaviors need to be worked on and adapted and changed in order to make the industry a lot more diverse and inclusive.
Right. So Men Able is focused on the automotive industry. Is that your intent?
To begin with, yeah. I mean, if I'm honest with you, there's two parts to what I personally am now doing. Not only because obviously Men Able has grown, so I've managed to elevate myself to the dizzy heights of Chief Visionary Officer. To take a Simon Sinek suggestion, I'm not CEO, I'm CVO. So I have a board of management around me, and the idea is that we will work with automotive businesses to help them address culture and working practice issues. Then the second part of that will be that I will then spread my wings out to, via speaking and through platforms like this, to other industries to say, look, this is what we've done in the automotive sector, a sector that was very male driven and was actually quite archaic. We've made some change and some impact there. Don't buy us in to create a men able for your industry. Go off and, let us inspire you, and you go and create something of your own. If you want help with that, of course, that's what we can do, but we're not intending to take men able and suddenly apply it to other sectors.
Right. No, I just wanted to know what the intent was so that people can understand how you're serving. So one of the things I want to know then is, can you tell us maybe something specific that men in the automotive industry have to deal with? Something specific to dealing with the industry that is characteristic that others may not have to understand.
I mean, immediately the first one that comes to mind is the pressure of objectives and targets. Sure. The automotive industry is geared up for mass production, and when you mass produce a product, particularly a highly priced item like a motor vehicle, be it a car, a van, a truck, a bus, whatever, if you're a company that's geared up for producing those en masse, you are going to need outlets for those vehicles. And the culture and the typical way of working is that those businesses then incentivize salespeople with commissions and profit-related bonuses. And there's even an element of that now that works in terms of what happens in the workshop as well. So technicians or mechanics will often get some rewards based on their productivity and their efficiency. So I think if you're a man, well, not just a man, but specific, we've said it's male dominated, but if you're a man and you're working in that environment, then it creates pressure and it creates anxiety. And, all of us are very good at living our lives to the absolute end of our means, which is fine if, things are going well. But if things start to slip or drift, we can all suddenly then think, wow, I don't have enough money coming in and I'm under pressure. And, as I said,
sorry, if you're not making your quotas, is there the threat that you're not going to, be employed very long? Is that part of the culture as well?
I'd like to think that probably in some places, but I'd like to think that the vast majority of the automotive industry is now, a lot more up to date and a lot more professional in its thinking than just that. But yeah, I mean, that's the inference, isn't it? If you don't perform, if you're not aggressive and competitive and on top of your game,
and that alone can cause, undue pressure for somebody, trying to raise a family, trying to make ends meet, and just barely making it. Because again, if they're not that quality salesman, top of the game, then they're probably not, providing for their family the way we're expected to.
Yeah. Or the way that they set their own expectations.
True.
Too. I mean, that's the other thing that us men do is we set ourselves, unrealistic expectations, and and then we surround ourselves with all the trinkets and toys and whatever it might be, and suddenly you've put yourself under a lot of pressure. And I think the motor trade does that in spades, if I'm honest, and people get promoted into management roles, and the pressure just increases, and we pass that pressure on to the people around us.
So it's a very high pressure industry, and I look forward to the work that you're doing in that industry as more specific, just to try and help alleviate some of the pressures that they have to deal with, and maybe even make it a more diverse culture at this point too.
Exactly.
I think that's called for.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm sure there are a lot of women out there who can, are good at talking to men or other women or other families about what their car needs. And, there's so many opportunities out there to expand that market. So,
yeah, I mean, we're on a bit of a mission with the whole diversity and inclusion thing as well. And I've recently joined a diversity and inclusion task force at the Institute of the Motor Industry, which is the professional body that oversees the car industry globally. And so I've joined a whole bunch of thought leaders on that. And yeah, I mean, there's some serious amount of work to do to address,
Of course.
the gender imbalance and the whole kind of, making the industry inclusive for, not just ethnic minorities, but disabled people as well. And there's a massive amount of work to do.
And you know what? I think a lot of us out there in the world are doing a lot of the good work that needs to be done. Yourself and Menable are just one of those ways that we're all, not all of us, but enough of us are doing our part to help change the world for the better.
Yeah, so, I think so. And it's, it's good to be connected. And obviously I'm in the Voice of Men 360 WhatsApp group as well. So I see there's loads of stuff going on. And yeah, it's great. It's great.
And as far as men's work, absolutely. The voice is certainly expanding. And I hope we're making men feel like they're not alone. There are so many other men just like you going through this. Look at this situation that Stephen went through, right? Here's how he got through it. He had friends, he had support. You've got friends, you've got support. You'll have a better day too, right? I think that's the whole mission of our show, but also the whole men's work.
Yeah. There's always hope, and and I've got to say, I mean, I don't wish to sound like I'm some sort of hero or anything, but I started doing some volunteering recently for a charity in the town that I live in, where they provide just volunteer visitors to go into the local hospital, specifically into the cancer centre, and sit and talk to cancer patients and their families. And I spent about 3 hours in there yesterday, and I came home, just absolutely humbled, thinking, wow, the work that the people in there do, but also some of those patients and their families and what they're going through and what they're dealing with. And, whilst my issues were dark and dismal, it was nothing in comparison to what some of these people are going through.
Exactly. And we can't compare ourselves to others, but we can't compare our pain to another's pain. Like what we feel in that moment is valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, again, what do we do in the next moment? It's always, what do we do in the next moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, exactly.
So on that, we're here to help inspire our men and boys, to help them become better men. A couple questions we always ask at the end of the show is, what can we do to help our young men and boys make an easier journey?
I think that the key thing that would have made a massive difference for me is encouraging them to talk, encouraging them to open up, and whatever it might be about, you are you, and be authentic and open up. There's a fantastic video that I shared on my LinkedIn page recently by Gabor Mate. And he talks about the one of the reasons why we don't open up is because our authenticity is kind of linked to the need for attachment that we have as a species. And we sort of have this subconscious thing that if we're authentic, what's going to happen is the people around us are going to move away from us, and therefore it risks our attachment that we have. And that could be with our parents, our siblings, our friends. What I found is the opposite. Is that actually by opening up, I've actually attached and attracted more people to me from areas I wouldn't have expected, to be honest. It's had the opposite effect on some, but not many. And even my close family and even now my soon-to-be ex-wife are sort of accepting what I've declared. And so I would say, yeah, be open, be honest, and communicate, and be yourself.
Thank you. And thank you for using those two words. I want to let people out there know we don't pay our guests to use those words. It really is that important, that people open up about their journey, about their story. Not only, as you mentioned, that, for their own being of getting it off their chest, but the fact that, yes, people do band together because they see similarities and they see your authenticity and how real you are. So thank you for that. And then the last question I like to ask is, what can we as a society do to help our men and boys through this journey?
Well, I think on the receiving end of communicating and being authentic is acceptance. It's acceptance and not judging, and not, just be empathic, and work on your emotional intelligence. If that's not you, have a think about how you can be supportive, because it is about just acceptance and just being prepared to support people. And I think if we all start doing more of that, we're on the right path, I think.
Right, because I mean, if we're going to ask our men and boys to open up, we're going to ask them to share themselves with us. We have to be willing to accept whatever may come from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it's good things. Hopefully, it's only betterment. But you know what? When men open up, I know for me, when I opened up after being so reserved for a long time and started letting my emotions flow, some of the bad emotions came out too, right? So I had to learn control at the same time. So, there will be a journey for them, but let's be supportive. Let's help them walk through that process, right? I love exactly what you've just said. That's exactly what we need to do for our men and boys.
100%.
So in closing, is there anything you want to leave us with to open up?
I think you just touched on it there when you said about a process. I mean, I'm a great one, having trained car salesman for many years. I was following a process or creating one of my own, and I created a sort of 5-step process. And the first part of that was the bit that I call bucket of overwhelm, which was just really be aware that when you first start to level up with some of this stuff, you are going to be overwhelmed with what's going on. And if I meet anyone who says that they're a solicitor or a lawyer, it just makes me cringe, because I just think they prey on that, particularly in a divorce situation, because the whole thing is overwhelming, and I'm just talking about divorce in my case, but certainly in the case of anyone who's got an illness or opening up about any kind of mental health issues, be prepared that you are suddenly going to be swamped. If it's not with things that are physical, so in my case, it was letters and phone calls and emails. If it's not that, it's with your own thoughts. You're going to be absolutely overwhelmed with your own thoughts, because they have to kind of find a place and sort themselves out. Just be prepared, but don't let that stop you, because the other steps that I worked through, got me to a place of realizing, once I get past that, it is.
I was an angry man one time, and I realized that all that anger was, within me. It was just me. And when I was able to start releasing that anger and forget that this made me angry and this made me angry, eventually it started to become a peace, a more relaxing environment, a more happier environment, and these things will come, right? So
they will.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. These things are not easy to talk about. Not everybody's willing to share their personal life stories, their experiences, their struggles. So I appreciate your willingness and your courage to share your life struggles with us today.
You're more than welcome in it. And as I said at the beginning, it's great to be connected to you guys and doing, work sort of with you and stuff. And if we can find a way to spread the word, as I said, we're particularly around the automotive industry, but of course the work that we do is generic. So it'd be great to work with you.
And IMD and VOM 360, we're doing work around the world. I'm sure Menable is getting there as well. Menable, is getting there as well. So again, there's always opportunity for collaboration and doing the good work that we're all about working on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me have the link to this show and I'll spread it all over social media.
Wonderful. I'm sure our host will, or our producer will send that to you. So thank you, Stephen Whitton, for joining us and sharing your life journey with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. When people like yourself come forward and share their life experiences on platforms like ours, especially on social media, it gives people hope out there to someone to change their life and mindset and change their life in a positive direction. That's our goal here in Voice of Men 360. Is we want to bring individuals and allow them to share their life journey, have an open conversation about our men's problems and challenges and how we can help them. So I have a few announcements to share to end our show. As many Canadians know that our Indigenous communities are now in big crisis and they need our help and support. Voice of Men 360 is again stepping up and started a donation drive for our Indigenous peoples. If you have used clothing, dry food items, please let us know. We will collect them. Call us at 416-356-7414. Once again, this number is 356-7414, or you can contact us through our platforms. I'll give you the information for that in a moment. Please, you can also reach us through Facebook Messenger if you have items to donate. We'll coordinate with you. Voice of Men 360 will be hosting our first meet and greet. That will be Saturday, August 28th in the GTA. We're going to be meeting at Earl Bales Park. That's going to be from 11 to 3 p.m. August 28th. Earl Bales Park is Bathurst and Shepherd area. 4169 Bathurst Street is actually the address. Please join us for our first Voice of Men 360 meet and greet. And then please, we want to represent our live shows, which you've just participated here in Open Up, which is one of our shows, a live talk show on every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Time and Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Then we have Vili, which is a Tamil language live talk show that takes place on Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We also participate in a monthly webinar, which is the first Saturday of every month from 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern Time, where we bring the expertise of an organization and discuss a particular topic. We also have a special monthly show called The Unspoken Tears. That's the second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The focus here is domestic violence against men. We also now started a South Asian men show. This is the third Sunday of every month from 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern Time. This is represented by Voice of Men 360 and the All Bengal Men's Forum. We specifically focus on individuals that face by South Asian men and create awareness, each month discussing different countries from South Asia. The next show will be Sunday, July 18th. That is today from 11:30 to 12:30. Please, after this, you're welcome to participate, where the topic will be the importance of fatherhood in a child's life. So please join and share your thoughts. And then we turn all of our episodes into podcasts. So please look for us on all of your podcast platforms, iPhone, Google Play, Spotify, and more. And then also, please join us for our support groups. The next one is the third Tuesday of every month. This one is July 20th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can participate through Zoom. So once again, this one is a men's only peer support group. Third Sunday of every month. Third Tuesday of every month. Tuesday, July 20th at 6 p.m. is our next one. Then we have an Indigenous peer-to-peer support group. We call this one Pass the Talking Stick. It is the fourth Friday of every month from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Next one is Friday, June 23rd. Please register and join us through Zoom. Once again, there are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walk of life are invited to participate in any of our content. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows or are willing to be part of our organization or help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, NGOs, government officials, and more. Please reach out to us. Again, we are Voice of Men 360. You can call us at 437-889-8329. Once again, 437-889-8329. You can email us at info@voiceofmen360.org, and that makes our website www.voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on all your social media platforms: Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and more. Of course, we are on Facebook. Our group is our primary activity. Please reach out to us there, facebook.com/groups/voiceofmen360. And then please join us on YouTube, like and subscribe for more to get more exciting content from Voice of Men 360. We want to reach out to more people and help more people, so please continue your support. Thank you. Until next time, I'm your host, RJ Horner, asking you to open up.